Hey, good morning. It's Thursday, August 20th. It's great to be with you this morning. You've no doubt heard the phrase that familiarity breeds contempt. If we hear something that's familiar to us, we tend to disregard it because in this culture, in this media time, we are conditioned for something new and different and exciting to be the motivation why we do things. If we've heard it before, we tend not to value it. But you see, the Bible is all about remembering. And if we don't remember the grace of God, and that remembrance doesn't bring that to us in a new and fresh way every day, we lose sight of it. So this morning I want to talk a little bit about the promise of thunder. And it's about passages that we have mentioned before, embraced before, read before. You no doubt have heard them many, many places. But stay with me on this train of thought. Remember, it's familiar, but it doesn't mean that it's not powerful. It doesn't mean that God doesn't have good things for us to remember the familiar. So in Ephesians 3:20, these words, "Now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than anything we ask or imagine, according to his power that is worked within us." God's power through the Holy Spirit, because of the work of Christ, because of the commitment of God, because of the divine call of God, is at our disposal. That's immense power. But we put it in some kind of a spiritual category where we don't think it matters for everyday life. But everyday life is fueled by what we don't see, is fueled by faith, is fueled by the things of God, not our own puny attempts. Psalm 29, which David wrote, reminds us of the power of thunder. And it says we hear the voice of the Lord. A crash of thunder gets our attention. Everything else pales by comparison. And then we move on, we forget about it, but it does get our attention, and we grasp how powerful it is. Well, the thunder is the voice of God. David understood that, and he translated that into his everyday life. And again, another common example. When David comes to bring some sandwiches, as Dale Ralph Davis says, to his brothers in the war, and David's not really a part of the campaign because he's quote unquote too young, his brothers mock him for being there. And then while David is there talking with troops and whatnot, Goliath shows up. Goliath is this legitimate 9-foot tall warrior, as Rich Mullins says, he's a giant killing machine. And all the Israelites are scared to death of him. But you see, David remembered the promise of God. David remembered hearing the thunder and the power of God. And he knew that Goliath was nothing compared to the mighty power of God, which he heard expressed in the thunder. And David knew when everybody else didn't know, Goliath was not the giant on the scene. God is the giant on the scene. And so that gave David the courage to go out and attack. Not because David was great, not because David was stronger than the giant, but David's God was stronger than the giant. And so he takes out the giant with his little tiny stone. Because David believed that the power of God is able to do immeasurably more than anything we ask or imagine. So you look at the giants in your life, quotation marks around giants, and those things that you fear, they aren't the giants. God is the giant. God is the one who has the power. God is the one who is able to do immeasurably more than anything you can ask or imagine, according to his mighty power. The power that raised Jesus from the dead, the power that is symbolized by the crash of thunder, the power that enabled David to have the right vision to take out Goliath. That power is at work within us. See, the promise of thunder is God is able to do immeasurably more than anything you ask or imagine. Thunder is the voice of God. It is there to encourage us. We don't hear thunder every day. If you live in Florida, you might, but we don't hear thunder every day. But when we do hear it, it's memorable. Hang on to those memories. Jesus says when we do the Lord's Supper, do this in remembrance of him. His mighty power that is at work within you. Don't let the people of this world, the things of this world, the fears in this world assume the place of God. They are not the giants. God is the giant. And he's able to do and accomplish immeasurably more than anything you could conceive of. That's the promise of thunder. Don't bow before the fears of man or the fears of circumstances. Bow before the God who loves you and can do all things through the power of Christ. And that's the thought for today. You have a great day, and we'll see you tonight. Bye-bye.